you. Thank you, Jyoti, and a very good morning to all of you. A very warm welcome for this FICCI's NBFC conference. I remember about, I think 20 years ago, we started focusing on financial services. Initially, it was banking. Then we started, a non-banking. Then we started a capital market forum at FICCI, which has been a big success. Then insurance, then NBFCs. So as India's financial services industry is evolving, and along with banks, we have mutual funds and pension funds and NBFCs and all. I always like to think that we are going from a single lane highway to a multi lane highway in our financial services industry. So I'm truly very happy that we are doing this for NBFCs, which is also a very important part of this, but also we are doing it at a very important point of time for the evolution of NBFC industry in India. It gives me great pleasure on this special occasion to invite all of you and compliment the team for this event. And more importantly, I want to extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Krishnamurthy Subramanian, Chief Economic Advisor, Ministry of Finance, who has been not only a policy think tank, but also been a spokesperson for government. So we are very thankful to you, sir, for being here, taking time out, but also giving all of us a chance to hear you once again on your thoughts. And I know a few times we have heard you. It has always been very clarifying, not in terms of what the government wants to do, but how the environment is and what we should expect going forward. So great to have you, sir. And as we all know, the current situation is unprecedented. It's almost a cliche to say, I don't think in the last, almost 100 years, we have seen any event like what we are going through now all over the world. And it goes up and down as we are seeing as recently as this week in France and Germany and USA, there is a big spike again. So this COVID issue is a very, very uncertain one, very unprecedented. And in the business environment, we always like to say that, we are in a VUCA world where everything is vague and ambiguous and complex. But I think COVID has made it even super VUCA for all of us. So in this time, the fact that we are all able to get together, put our heads together to understand what is in store for us, but also what we should be doing going forward is really very helpful. I think NBFC industries, we know the last couple of years have been very challenging times. But the glass, as with everything else, is always half full and half empty. I do feel that post ILFS, which is almost 2 years ago, I think it was October 2018, where the liquidity crisis started in India and especially for the NBFC sector. And then last about 6 months ago, COVID happened. But in a way, being part of the financial services, being part of the NBFC industry, I do think we are thankful for what started 2 years ago because it got everybody prepared. People raised capital, people build up their liquidity buffers so that when COVID happened, NBFC industry was a lot more prepared than it would otherwise have been or what it was 2 years ago. So in a way, as they say, अगर मन का हो तो अच्छा, मन का ना हो तो और भी अच्छा. So now when we look back, I think what happened 2 years ago was a great preparation for the NBFC industry to get ready to the stress test that COVID has imposed on all of us. And I think what we see now is that the crisis is over. I think there was a real crisis in the air about 5, 6 months ago. But now we have awaited the crisis. I think the industry has done a great job. The government has helped a lot. I think the PCG scheme, the MSME, Atmanirbhar, a credit scheme, all this have been big help. RBI has been marvelous, where they stepped up with PCG and LTROs and other schemes and the liquidity and being very proactive about it, being ahead of the curve. So I think we have shown once again in India that this extreme crisis that got imposed on us because of COVID, also we've been able to go through this stress test well. And I think what was a crisis earlier has now become a challenge. And the challenge is the challenge of growth and profitability and those issues. Because even today, the the term premium for NBFC's borrowing is very high. The risk premium is very high. So though there is a lot of liquidity, we are still not seeing that liquidity get converted into credit flow. We are still seeing credit growth, both bank and non-bank put together, is approximately 4 to 5% a year, while we all believe that credit should grow at least 10 to 12% for India to get to the 5 trillion economy that we want to get there. So how do we convert? How do we convert the liquidity now into credit flow, which will need some amount of risk taking, some amount of optimism, some amount of ensuring that we do start investing back in the economy. Consumption has started to come back, which is good news for us, but eventually investments need to come back. And for investments to happen, we need availability of credit, especially long-term credit for for the industry. And there, I think NBFCs can play a big role. I do believe that going forward, NBFCs are not competition to bank, but are partners to banks. So I think NBFCs and banks will coexist, will complement each other. And along with that, the evolution of capital markets and the bond markets and the fund market, the private credit fund market, all of this will also play a role. So I think India is now at a stage where we need to ensure that banks, NBFCs, bond market, pension fund, insurance companies, as well as credit funds, all of them provide the right kind of credit, the right credit at the right cost to the industry. Because even today, India credit cost is very high. And one of the reason credit cost is high is because of what we call ALM risk. And I hope that today, as we discuss, we do appreciate that NBFC industry has actually last 2 years not only managed a lot of credit risk, but has also managed a lot of ALM risk. Now, unfortunately, in finance, all the people who want to give you money want to keep it at the short end, and all the people who want to borrow money want at the long end. So NBFCs and banks and all have to manage this ALM risk a lot more. And I do believe that NBFCs are very capable of carrying the credit risk, the business risk of giving a loan. Your NPS might be 2%, maybe 4%, maybe 5%. I think NBFCs have enough equity buffers, have enough ability to manage the credit risk and the business risk per se. But how do we create an environment where the ALM risk can also be managed? So, are there instruments, are there structures where NBFCs can still provide the credit but not be subjected to this periodic ALM risk and the stress test that goes on with that? Because that really kills risk taking capability for NBFCs. And I do hope that today we do get a chance to discuss that. Along with that, we all know that technology is changing the financial services sector completely, including the credit markets, including NBFCs. So I think today I do hope that we get a chance to spend some time on what NBFCs can do on technology and collaborate with technology fund firms to create fintechs and platforms, because data is going to be a very important part of credit delivery mechanism. Earlier, it used to be availability of capital and ability to service and collect. But now, along with origination and collections, data and analysis is going to be very important. So I think today we'll get a chance to talk about the technology. And as I think, as this industry evolves, I think the support from the regulator, support from the government is going to be very important. So I do hope that we'll get a chance to interact with the government officials also, and we have the chief economic advisor, so that we can also see what kind of support the government and the regulator can extend for enabling the NBFCs to fulfill their purpose and their mission. So along with that, thank you all of you. Thank you very much for being here. And my colleagues from our NBFC committee, Rajiv and Dinanath, will talk a lot more. They are the experts on this. They'll talk a lot more. And we have some very esteemed speakers today. So with that, I would say thank you very much to all of you for being here for this NBFC Conference 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shah, for once again emphasizing the critical role of NBFCs and that they are partners and not competitors is an important point, and I think government is recognizing. Chief Economic Advisor himself has given us quite a lot of time, even in the past, to hear our views. May I now move to Mr. Rajiv Sabharwal, who chairs our NBFC committee, for his remarks. Please, over to you, Rajiv.
Committee, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to NBFC Conference. I'd like to thank the big team for not only organizing this event, but also for coordinating industry fairs and the grassroots, which have helped us highlight our. In fact, what we have seen during COVID times, the interactions have become far more frequent, and you can have interactions with many more people. The amount of interactions which we have had with you, Dr. Subramaniam, have been more in this period than before. Obviously, for reasons what Rashesh mentioned, but also because of the support which we have got during this period. We have the pleasure of having you here today. I've had the pleasure of hearing you before, and each there is a new learning which we take home, and we believe that we'll carry it forward today. Thank you for gracing the occasion and with your presence. On behalf of the industry, I would like to take this opportunity to also thank the regulator RBI and the government for taking very thoughtful steps during this period, along of COVID-19 pandemic. These measures have across sectors. It's not only individuals which have benefited, largely MSMEs which generate a lot of jobs have truly be beneficiaries of this. For us in NBFCs and HFCs in particular, the measures taken to improve liquidity among the stressed NBFCs and HFCs are noteworthy. Compared to the time when we started off with COVID, when we were really struggling to find out where money would come and at what rates would it come, today the situation is far different. There is abundance of liquidity and the interest rates are down. What we want over a period of time is that the benefit of these lower interest rates and liquidity to flow across all players in the industry. We should also not forget the fact that NBFC sector has been facing serious challenges even before the outbreak of the COVID pandemic, and hence the magnitude of the problems in fact intensified before the disruptions happened due to lockdowns. As Rashesh was mentioning, the impact of ILFS and then the impact of some of the players in the mutual fund industry really did impact the ability to raise money for a certain period of time. While the industry was grappling with these issues of asset is to to there, but over a period, we believe things, but still, to go really difficult, the forward there is real reason. Not only was business impacted, but the ability to collect also got impacted, and this continued in April. I think from May, things started improving, and especially from the end of May, NBFCs always were keen to start to open their offices while we were not part of the essential services and we were shut during end March and April. Branches started opening from May when the government allowed it, and soon almost all branches of all NBFCs were up by May end. So available, and also, uh, putting to contribute towards the revival of some of the vital segments of the economy, including retail and MSME. The crucial FC sector be provided to help them get over the ongoing crisis and given the opportunity to grow by addressing the other specific issues pertaining to the sector. Providing a level playing field with banks is a much desired step to help the NBFC sector. There was a time when said that NBFC have an advantage and it's not a level play. I think today NBFC is seeking a level playing field so that they can serve the different segments which they serve far better. Today, NBFCs are not only in the MSME sectors, but are playing a critical role also in financing the infrastructure projects, also reaching out to the rural segment in a big way, and creating the last mile connectivity. So, from that context, growth of NBFCs is critical for to raise is the difference in accounting standards as NBFCs are required to follow Ind AS while banks are still under IGAAP accounting norms. All regulatory circulars giving concessional or special dispensation to lenders are generally tailored to integrate with the IGAAP norms and are silent on whether these concessions override the Ind AS norms. It is therefore left to individual NBFCs and their auditors to determine whether there exists a regulatory override over Ind AS with respect to these special dispensations. This leads to varied accounting practices being followed by various NBFCs and makes industry-level comparisons difficult. For regulatory intent to be uniformly special to the entire NBFC sector, it is therefore recommended that every regulatory circular giving concessions or special dispensation to participants should clearly specify that these concessions can be enjoyed by all NBFCs and will override the Ind AS standards. While it is close to about 0.4 to ranges between 0.4 to 1% for banks, and it is on an average 0.6%. For NBFCs, we realize that it is almost double of that. Similarly, when the assets are being restructured by 10% on the restructured assets, the NBFCs end up providing double that because the Ind AS standards requires them to do so. In a way, it is good that NBFCs are well prepared to handle the future, but it does create a non-level playing field. The other point we want to raise is to allow the sale to ARCs by NBFCs and HFCs under SARFAESI as true sale. Banks and NBFCs subscribe to the SRs issued by the trusts that hold the transferred distressed assets, which are counted for as investments under the Indian GAAP. Both banks and NBFCs are covered under the same provisions of SARFAESI. Still, there is differential treatment between these entities, leading to NBFCs being disadvantaged vis-a-vis banks for holding stressed assets. Unlike banks, the NBFCs have implemented Ind AS, and in case of portfolio sale by bank to NBFC where true sale criteria is met, banks would be to de-license these loans under RBI guidance, while NBFCs cannot do so given that the NBFC does not allow it. It is evident that this is creating a differential treatment, which I don't think so is the desire of anyone. The efforts to bring about a level playing field. The other point which we felt that there is a large spectrum of NBFCs. We felt that it would help if the NBFCs are graded into different categories based on different criteria. It could be net worth, it could be credit rating, and based on that, we may allow the higher rated NBFCs with particular net worth and above to raise public deposits or to raise, on tap NCDs, or allow ECBs to be raised with less end use restrictions. This will open up a bigger market on the liability side. And this could also come with tighter supervisory controls. I think if we do that, then we will allow, avoid crowding of all NBFCs going to the same banks to raise money. If the larger ones can raise it through a different method, then more is available for the next lot of companies. Similarly, independent bank for NBFCs, then this, if there's tomorrow any crisis, then let's say in the banking system, it will not impact the NBFC lending, or if there is a crisis in the NBFC lending, it will not impact the banking system. It will to an extent decouple the two, which will which is important, especially at this point in time when we are in a digital world, and we want to avoid, too much. Going to Aadhaar is eKYC for NBFCs. It is a banks will be today. Different norms are there for NBFCs and HFCs like OKYC, Video KYC, but they are not as convenient as eKYC and require multiple hops when you want to do it. And we all know that in hops we lose a number of transactions. So allowing similar eKYC norms to NBFCs and HFCs will be extremely beneficial. As the when low interest is passed on, but I think so things can be slightly better. As watch on in conditions and take necessary steps to address the emerging challenges, considering the importance of strategy revival in the post-COVID period is extremely important. I'm certain the deliberations in the subsequent sessions would bring out many useful suggestions for driving the sector in the right direction. And I really look forward to these interesting sessions. But a special thanks to you, Doctor, for joining us, and we look forward to hearing you. With this, I conclude my remarks and extend my best wishes for the conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajiv. May now invite co-chair of the committee, Mr. Dinanath Vashi. Dinanath, if you could just, wrap up in 5 minutes. CA also has a hard stop at 10, so we will immediately after that move to the Chief Economic Advisor. Thank you.
Thank you, Jyoti. I understand that. I will try to take even less than that. Since my two esteemed colleagues have spoken before me, there are very few points left to say. So I will just try and strike a little bit optimistic note on what the strengths that the sector has shown. But before that, I won't be doing my duty unless I first thank FICCI, the FICCI working team to arrange this. A special welcome to the Chief Economic Advisor, Dr. Subramaniam. Thank you for being here. A special thanks again to the regulator and the government for making sure that the sector has enough liquidity through the crisis and not only survives but starts business as usual, and very, very timely steps taken, very dynamic steps taken. And most importantly, you have been open to feedback. And that's something which I believe not only this sector, but everybody found extremely, extremely value-added. Last but not the least, I will need to thank one more constituency, which is the on-field staff of all NBFCs. I think when we say that you have to give your life and blood for the company, over the last 4 months after the branches have opened, I think staff across NBFCs on field have literally done that, literally put their lives at risk, gone ahead, gone done the business, gone and done the collections, and I don't think my duty will be complete without thanking each one of them, whichever company they belong to. First edition of NBFC Summit FICCI, and that is virtual. We are not meeting really, and which is maybe fitting in some way because lots of things have changed over the last 6 months. The way we do business, way we do collections, the way we meet, everything has changed. But I would like to say that one thing has not changed. And what has not changed is what the NBFCs contribute to the economy. The NBFCs have always been contributing to the economy shoulder to shoulder with banks and the other constituents of the BFSI sector. And we continue to do so, as Rajiv said, not only as it is normally understood to SMEs, to microloans, but also to large infrastructure projects, also to agri. And now, latest fintech. At the end, fintechs are also NBFCs, and lots of NBFCs are also tying up, getting into data analysis, digital. So I would actually think the future is bright, and hence I would like to put my comments, and I would also like lots of deliberations, not only on what help NBFC need, but more importantly, how NBFC can use the power, the strengths that they have built over the last few years to not only grow themselves, but to help the economic amount of the problems that it is there. And I would like to put a few thoughts on that. Also would like to put one note of strength, and that genuinely I want to thank all my peer NBFCs. Let us understand one thing. On 27th of March, NBFCs were told that for the next 2 months at least, that is April and May, your cash inflows can potentially be zero. Right? And it was not like banks where NBFCs the final source of money, the last resort source of money, which is RBI. And still, no NBFC defaulted. Whether it is small, big, some had more difficulties, some had less difficulties. For this session, just be at 30,000 feet and no NBFC defaulted. I would like all my peers, as we go into the future, take strength from that fact. And as Rasesh Bhai really said, that ILFS prepared the sector for this lockdown. May this lockdown prepare us for any problems to come in the future. And that's the strength that we are building. As Rajiv rightly said, what we are looking for more is parity. Parity in all the aspects of our operations. Rajiv, you talked about liquidity a lot. There are three things that NBFCs need: capital, liquidity, and credit quality, obviously. Capital depends on the owners, obviously, and most definitely many owners have brought in capital. But as we go ahead, probably the sector will see a lot of consolidation, and we would, like this to become, if the owners want to consolidate regulatorily or in terms of law, this to become more and more easy, so that the sector can consolidate, sector can become stronger. Liquidity, I guess, lot has been done. As the stronger NBFCs, I think this topic is behind us, but perhaps for the weaker ones, for the smaller ones, more money at the right cost needs to flow. But I would come to my last point. For helping credit quality, there are two big aspects where we will need to really appreciate parity. One, as Rajiv said already, is live access to the Aadhaar database. Genuinely, our credit quality, frauds, all those things were majorly improving with access and with not having live access, albeit with lots of limitations, lots of care to be taken for data privacy. is really causing a problem. And if we have to see not only the sector, but lending and rural lending, bottom of the pyramid lending to go ahead, we believe that that is something which will be needed. And on the other side, an access to the CLILIC database, where we contribute. There are times that the regulator tells us that this bank has even reported you being 1 day late. And frankly, we don't know because we don't have access to that CLILIC database. And 99.99% of the times it is the bank's fault that because of some system error they have reported that NBFC is 1 day late in repaying and then it is corrected. But it is something that, it's a database where we contribute. Genuinely, we see no reason why we should not have access to it for getting data. Sir, we look forward to listening to you. These are some of the issues that we would like to raise with a promise to you, sir, that the sector will stand completely to its own capabilities. What we say, even when the Ram Setu was built, a small squirrel also contributed. Please take the sector as a squirrel, sir, and we will always contribute to build as strong a Setu as the government wants to build. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Didi, for a very optimistic note, and the simile that you gave with the squirrel is very, very interesting. Now we move to the chief guest of the day, Dr. Subramaniam, who's been very kind to be with us this morning. He's very well known to the audience. He's one of the key architects of many of the reforms that we've seen, particularly in COVID period. We've had very, very positive notes coming from you. So it's only befitting that we have you with us this morning to address some of the anxieties this very important sector is facing, which we have heard from all the earlier speakers. So over to you, Dr. Subramaniam, for your keynote address, please.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Good morning to everyone, and thank you very much for providing me the opportunity to share my thoughts. Firstly, let me congratulate the entire NBFC community for showing so much resilience during this difficult time. I think as Rasesh and Rajiv and Nath have clearly outlined, it clearly seems like the worst is behind us. In my remarks, what I want to do is to actually push you all further, set higher goals. I think I think about it as my duty to do so. Let me give you some perspective about why I think the financial sector should look at this crisis as such an opportunity in India. I'll present some facts. I want you to take it in the correct spirit. My intention here is to goad you to move further, especially given the resilience and the capabilities that you've demonstrated. I think there is enormous potential. If you look at the financial sector in India, just take one simple statistic. The ratio of private credit to GDP is about 52%. The OECD average is about 160% average. Remember, it's not the maximum, it's the average. We are 1/3 of that average. And especially in some areas like the Northeast, the credit to GDP ratio is less than 10%. Less than 10%. I think just this simple fact should actually tell you about how much work there is to be done. While we certainly deserve to pat ourselves on the back for good work, I think it wouldn't be inappropriate for me to say that, especially for the financial sector in India, miles to go before we sleep, because there is just so much to be done. Let me just point out a couple of important things in this context. No country has been able to grow fast over a long period of time without really having its financial sector lead the growth. Typically, if you want X percentage growth, in the economy, 1.5x has to be the growth rate of the financial sector. So that's sort of what I mean by saying that the financial sector has to lead the growth. If you look at the Japanese economy in the 1980s when it grew really well, of the top 25 banks globally, 18 banks were Japanese. If you look today, of the top 100 banks globally, 18 are Chinese. And yet the fifth largest economy in the world has only one bank in the global top 100. That's a 55th ranked State Bank of India. I think, this statistic together with what I told you, 1/3 of the global average, of the OECD average, and with areas like the Northeast, being a fraction, less than 10%, I think, illustrates how far we have to go. I'll just summarize this using a parallel. The Indian financial sector is like the 1990s cricket team, which basically could write a lot about its wins in the domestic front, but once it stepped out of its shores, worthy to write about. That is what the financial sector in India is. And I think, we need to, especially with so many sectors now achieving global recognition. For instance, just take PPEs, from being, producing zero PPEs in just a few months, India has become the second largest manufacturer in the world for PPE kits. You look at the cricket team itself. The cricket team does not take pride in being domestic tigers. It actually, under Sourav Ganguly, Dhoni, etc., they've won accolades everywhere in the world. So I think it is time now that the financial sector really starts saying that, we need to be counting, in the global scheme of things. We cannot, for the fifth largest economy, we cannot be punching so much below the weight of the economy. I think that is the goal that I want to actually lay out for the financial sector, including banks and NBFCs. And here's where I think NBFC's role is far more important, because, when you look at innovation and disruption in any sector, it is always the new entrant and those that are challengers. It's the challengers that bring the disruptions and the innovations, because oftentimes the incumbents are too status quo oriented to try disruptions, and therefore it's beholden on the NBFC sector to challenge our banks to really take financial inclusion to the bottom of the pyramid. Just to give you a sense, in 50 years, we just had the golden jubilee of bank nationalization. But the problems of financial inclusion and the bad debt from the large loans given to corporates remains the same from 50 years back to today. So these are problems that we really need to surmount, and we seem to have quality problems in the financial sector, despite the really small scale at which we operate. So I think even with such low quantity, and I've given you the facts on that, the fact that our quality suffers, we have so many problems, I think is basically indicative that we are not doing enough in thinking about how to use data analytics, AI, machine learning. We've only scratched the surface. I think technology, use of technology can be far higher in the financial sector. For instance, while technology, data analytics has been used in the in retail lending, and there hasn't been that much use in large corporate lending at all. And even there, the economic survey pointed out in the chapter on golden jubilee of bank nationalization, where simple things like tracking related party transactions, tracking the promoter's share, the shareholding that is pledged, the quality of financial statements, simple things actually can enable you to infer not only the ability to repay, but the willingness to repay as well. I think the need for relying on such data I think is very important. Anybody who basically, in the financial sector who tells me that, that these don't have relevance, I think is clearly not reading the literature, is not looking at what is the cutting edge in the financial sector, is at least 20, 25 years behind. I think that is what we really need. We need the, the NBFC sector to be pushing the envelope on these aspects. Take, for instance, take the PM JDY accounts. There are 400 million accounts now, and transactions over the last 5 years, lots of transactions. Look at the median balance in these accounts. Actually, that's not trivial at all. So there's a lot of data there that can actually be really, mined to infer both the willingness to repay and the ability to repay. I'm not even talking about putting together third-party data sets to actually do this. Just the transactions data there can actually give you, look at, take MSME lending, over the last 30 years, the magnitude of lending to MSMEs remains about the same. I think these are just illustrations, these are symptomatic of how, we've not basically been ambitious enough in the financial sector, and we need to be far, far more ambitious so that the financial sector in India can really punch to the weight of its economy. In this context, there are a couple of things that I want to highlight, especially for NBFCs. I hope all of you would have taken a careful look at the chapter that we wrote on financial fragility in the NBFC sector in the economic survey, where we talked about rollover risk, something that Rasesh referred to through the asset liability mismatch. But at the same time, also the interconnected risk when you have basically mutual funds and liquid debt mutual funds investing in commercial papers, that are issued by you, it generates a certain interconnectedness which poses significant amounts of systemic risk. So at this point in time, these are, while the regulators, of course, are mandated to monitor these things, I think at an individual level, every NBFC needs to monitor its rollover risk and the interconnected risk as well, because, I think it's in times like these that prudential, measures must be taken by each NBFC to ensure that risks do not mount. And here, I think one of the other key aspects that must be kept in mind is that forbearance is necessary at this point in time. But the previous episode, 2008-2009, illustrates very well the kind of zombie lending that continued, evergreening that happened during that time, and which basically came back to really bite, in 3-4 years later. So I think this period should be the period where all financial institutions really look at, and the boards in particular, keep a very careful watch on lending. For instance, if you take zombie lending to firms with interest coverage ratio less than 1, and we've looked at the data, increased significantly during the, after 2008-2009, and that's the kind of thing that must be watched now. Lest these again, we have problems actually coming back, 3-4 years later. The very important aspect that must be watched. At the same time, there are, I think, important opportunities now with the netting law that has been passed. Credit derivatives, I think, can really now come in. Rasesh was talking about management risk and overall, the credit risk itself. The netting law is a big move, because the amount of capital that has to be now put need not be on a gross basis, can be on a net basis, and therefore, credit derivatives, I think, there is an opportunity for those to take off, to be able to manage credit risk. Similarly, the bunch of reforms that have been undertaken, both in the farm sector and the manufacturing sector, I think really enable NBFCs in particular to lend in large, in very good ways to the primary and the secondary sectors of the economy. Primary sector, especially, for instance, food processing, secondary sector manufacturing, with the many changes that have happened. So I think these are very important opportunities that can be utilized. But the NBFCs and the financial sector in general will not be able to avail these opportunities in a stable, sustained manner unless the investment in technology, data, analytics is ramped up to a different level. And there I must point out the example of, of Deep Blue, the chess software that was just fed games of chess. It wasn't even taught the rules of chess. And using AI and machine learning, learned the tactics and strategy of chess and ended up defeating Gary Kasparov, none other than Gary Kasparov, the highest rated, ELO rated player. The reason I bring that up is I'm sure, all of you would agree, and this is something I say based on 20, 25 years of research in the financial sector, that the tactics and strategy that are involved in default, be it willful default or distress default, are far, far simpler compared to what actually gets involved in a game of chess. So, if AI and machine learning can actually help defeat the highest ELO rated player, I think when you put your minds together to really exploit the opportunity that there is in these AI and machine learning models, I think it is very easy to be able to create models. There are umpteen examples, worldwide of financial institutions doing this, really putting together models that enables you to go down the pyramid and generate alpha in the process, but at the same time do it on a sustained basis, generate alpha from lending to to lower sections of the pyramid in a sustained manner, and that can happen actually through the use of data analytics and AI and machine learning. This is where the opportunity really is. This is where the disruption really is, especially in India with the kind of digitization of the economy that is happening. So I think very good opportunities for the financial sector in general and for the NBFC sector in particular. I think the fact that you all have been able to overcome or go through this period with such resilience, I think is indicative of your own capabilities. I think you therefore need to be like, and I am here playing the role of Jambavan, just to use Dinanath's another example from Ramayan. Jambavan actually had to remind Hanuman's own capabilities, and my desire here of by pointing out all these facts, the opportunities and the amount of work that needs to be done together with the capabilities that you have, I hope I am able to play the role of Jambavan to say, grow like Hanuman, and go and conquer all that is there on the financial sector side, so that you can really contribute to the Indian economy. So with those remarks and with wishing you all the good luck, in this process, I'll stop here.
Thank you so much. I think you gave, the simile of Jamban was indeed very good. That the strength of NBFCs have to be recognized with themselves. They've stood it, but they stood the ground. A lot more to be done. And of course, government will continue to support them. We are very sure of that. Dr. Subramaniam, we have put together a knowledge paper along with EY. We have Abhisar with us. So may I request you to virtually, release the report as well. So if you could just put up the report out here, please. So the report identifies all the opportunities and challenges. I will hand over to Abhisar from here, who has actually put together the report for us, to quickly take us through, some of the broader points. So over to you, Abhisar, for your presentation.
So thanks, Jyoti. In the interest of time, all the other panelists have actually summarized a lot of what we have said in the report, and I will not go ahead to repeat it. I just want to make a few extra points to what has already been made. And I do agree with Dr. Subramaniam that there is a huge challenge going forward for the NBFC sector, and thanks for the challenge given to the sector. The sector has been resilient over time. It has proven that despite there being clear, in my opinion, regulatory disadvantages, the sector has emerged quite well. Just to put things in perspective, out of the total banking sector, total credit in India, the NBFC sector totally is 36 lakh crores of credit, which is roughly 30% of the market share, which is quite large. And the biggest thing that the NBFC sector brings along is actually a skills arbitrage, never to be forgotten, because it is, first of all, the most important disadvantage that an NBFC has is that it borrows from banks. And generally, the yield of a bank is the cost of funds of an NBFC. So they operate on a 250 basis point disadvantage to lend to anybody in the market. And really the two things that they have done pretty well, and I'll first take the compliment and then come to what we need to do. The two things that they've really done really well is, one is that they have managed to penetrate through a skills arbitrage into areas where the banking sector has found it difficult to get into. And especially if you look at gold segment or if you look at affordable housing segments, these are segments which the banks have tried to but cannot penetrate even with a cost advantage, where I think the NBFC sector has played a very big role. Earlier in the, even when it came to structured finance, where there was a skills arbitrage vis-a-vis structuring abilities that the NBFCs managed much better than when capital was more easily available to that sector. I think they were able to fund the real estate growth in the country to a very great extent in innovative structuring methods, which I think the banking sector in some ways lacked, by borrowing money from the banks. What I think we did in the bargain is, because there was easy money available from the banking system, additional avenues for funding were not explored. Now there is also a regulatory issue, as highlighted by Rajiv and the others. ECB needs to be opened up much easier so that money can be borrowed. More importantly, they need to be able to, some of the large NBFCs, look at the scale. We have 9,600 NBFCs in the sector, out of which only 275 are systemically important. I think the systemically important NBFCs deserve a separate set of regulations to be able to more easily access alternative sources of finance other than just banks. So if they allow deposit taking ability, for example, I think it would go a long way. With regulation, no problem. But deposit taking ability would go a long way. I think the other big ability is, of course, opening up SARFAESI and other regulations more openly, giving them access to credit. I think these systemically important NBFCs need to be treated bank-like in most fashions. So I think that is one thing I would move to. The other thing is COVID revival. I think in terms of the COVID revival regulations that came out, there were two big lacunas that one needs to handle. One is that every kind of stimulus was through the banking system and not directly to the NBFC sector. And maybe that is important, because then the credit discretion was with the banks. And the banks in these times have been stricter in credit dispersals, which it did impact the NBFC sector in a big way. Secondly, the restructuring norms that came out that enabled NBFCs to restructure or do a one-time restructuring for their own assets, but for their own liabilities, this was not made available. So that created a big asset liability mismatch. And in my opinion, again, revival from COVID is a bit like project finance. You will have to put in money initially, but the returns will come with a lag. And I think that is important to understand to enable better COVID revivals or more sustainable COVID revivals. So I think the scheme needs to come on that. I think accounting has been dealt with, so I won't go into it. The other important thing is that I think there needs to be a path for some of the large NBFCs to head towards the banking sector. And to that extent, I compliment the government for the small finance bank regulations that have come out. Because, the problem is that whenever an NBFC converts into a bank, it wants to become a universal bank, growing in size and competing with the largest. And when you compete with the largest, what you forget is to address the needs of the small. So what the small finance bank intended to do, it is not a small finance bank, but it's just a bank which lends small amounts of money. It's a large bank which lends small amount of money. If that nature is kind of retained, then I think it's a good pathway for NBFCs to actually head towards either banks, depending on what the DNA is, or to small finance banks. But I think that pathway should be made much more easier and much more amenable. Even the regulations that involve promoter shareholdings needs to be relooked at. So I think that these are important. If we look at these kind of regulations, I think a near treatment to a bank is an immediate measure. and a conversion to a bank in the larger sector will enable NBFCs to actually penetrate better, because ultimately we have to narrow down the cost arbitrage so as to deliver credit in an easier manner. I think I don't want to talk more than that. I would, because most other people have spoken, I would hand it back to Jyoti to take the proceedings forward, because anyway we are a bit ahead of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dinanath. I'm sure CA has taken a note of many of these. So we will also share this knowledge paper with you and many other people in the government for them to look at. And thanks, Abizar, for really putting this together. It's a very, very comprehensive report out there. So may I now move to Mr. Dilip Chinoy. Sir, before that, I just wanted to tell the audience that we'll be running poll. EY team has helped us put together a poll in the subsequent sessions. So please do participate in those polls. That will be very interesting point out here. Over to you, Secretary General, for your vote of thanks, please.
Thank you, Jyoti. First of all, to Dr. Krishnamurthy V. Subramaniam, Chief Economic Advisor, Ministry of Finance and Government of India, aka Jambawan. Thank you for being here. Thank you for really, motivating and putting the whole perspective of the opportunities before the NBFC sector. In fact, the whole financial sector, and to really take Mr. Rashesh Shah's kind of analogy forward. We are on a highway, and unfortunately, where the speed limit is let's say 120, we are operating at around 40 kilometers an hour, and we need to be able to get enough fuel in and rev up the engines and get the whole vehicle moving forward. Thank you also for really putting in perspective the whole need to put in technology and how do we avoid the earlier episodes of zombie lending and look at it in a different way going forward. Of course, we also in your address, we also believe that you understand that some of the issues raised earlier by either Mr. Rashesh Shah or Mr. Rajiv Sabharwal and Mr. Dinanath Dubashi would be looked at very positively going forward. So thank you for your presence and participation this morning. Mr. Shah, thank you very much for setting the context here. And I believe that with your leadership, we will continue to go forward. Thank you, Rajiv, for leading this whole initiative and for always being there. And like you said, and Dr. Subramaniam has always been present. In fact, the whole government has been responsive not only to the NBFC sector but all the different sectors. And I think the concern which Dr. Subramaniam said, that the lending to the MSME has almost remained stagnant. And if MSME is the engine of growth here, then the NBFCs have an even greater role to play, and all of us need to go forward. Mr. Dinanath Dubashi, I think you raised the 3C issues, whether it's capital, credit in terms of liquidity, or the quality of credit. And I'm sure going forward, we'll address all of these issues. Abizar, thank you for your report. I actually had a physical copy and we went through, and I am actually